All right, so large file sizes. Sometimes you get a mock-up done, it has some images in it, you save it, and you realize it's 23, 24, 25 megs, or even bigger. Sometimes it'll sneak by and the reps will have to let you know, but ultimately you need to learn how to get these sizes down to about a megabyte or two. As anything larger than that in a mock-up really doesn't need to be there unless we're talking about print, but that's a different story. So for the promotional items, there's a couple key things you want to look at when you open a file like this to clean it up. The number one thing that's going to increase your file size most likely is an excess of images or elements outside of the artboards that aren't really necessary. So great, obviously this was referenced at one point to get the mockup done, probably not something that needs to stay there. And then a bigger version of this could be helpful to keep there, so we'll go ahead and leave that for now. Anything that's vector or live text can stay, so that's not really going to increase your file size at all. And then the only other things you need to look at before you do a save is the size of these guys. So when you click on an image in Illustrator, you'll see up here that it shows you the PPI, or the pixels per inch value of that. So 59 and 79. So they're both relatively small. You want those to be under 72 for saving these to really reduce file sizes. So for the sake of demonstration, I'll show you how to do that on this one that's just over. So there's a couple different ways. You can do it upon exiting Illustrator, but an easier way to get this file size down while you're working on it is going to be using your Rasterino. And then you're going to come in here and you have all these tools, but you're going to jump into the edit as if you were going to go edit it in Photoshop. All right, so we have that open. Make this a little bit bigger here. So we're going to go ahead and go into your image size in Photoshop. And then in here's where you have all these specs, but the only one you need is the resolution. So you're gonna bring that down to 72. It'll adjust your pixel count and that's fine, but you'll notice the width and height stays the same so that when you bring it back in to Illustrator, it won't affect how anything is laid out. So you can go ahead and press OK, do Command S, and that'll save that. All right, and then we're gonna go back into Illustrator and press our revert button to bring in that updated file. It brings that down to 72. So now we have one at 59, one at 72. There's really nothing else here that should be impeding uh, that file size too much. So we're going to do a Command Shift S. Essentially, you could just save it over the top, but you need to adjust a couple settings. So you want to leave the Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities in case you need to come back or make other edits, so don't get rid of that one. But under Compression is another spot where you can make sure all your images are downsized. So there's a couple different settings in here. Most of the time, their default settings would do fine, but since we know we don't need them that big, we can pull those all the way down to 72 if there's a lot going on. Otherwise, you can just leave them as is. You can do the zip or the JPEG. I just have always used the JPEG and left it on like a medium file size. So that's about a 50% coming out of Photoshop. So go ahead and save that PDF. And then once that's done, you can cruise back over to your file. So you'll see this image quality isn't as great anymore, but that's just something that'll help you get the file size down. And you'll notice we have it down to 1.2 megabytes. So it's really effective. If you have important stuff in the image, keep it around 150 over 72. But 72 for the less important things, especially that off artboard stuff. If it's just for reference, that'll help you pull the file size way down.